Hey, this is Heather Zeitzwolf, and I'm going live again. I am the host of Get the Balance Right podcast, and I am doing a series on the podcast called Stepping Into Your Authenticity. And we are joined by Nedra today, and I'm going to let her onto the stage. Boom, 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 go live with Nedra. Here we go. Awesome. Are you here? Let's see, what did I do wrong? Did I accept this? Let's see, okay. What's going on? Why is this button not working? There she
Yay.
is. Hi.
Okay, we're on. Yay.
Yay. Nedra is a big Star Wars fan, and you can see behind her that she's got Princess Leia. And I dug around for probably about 20 minutes trying to find one of my Princess Leia shirts, and I cannot find it. So instead, I'm wearing Sabrina, and I love her, but I was really wanting to wear Princess Leia for you, but I just couldn't find her. This is what happens when you have tons of black shirts, and when they come out of the laundry, I fold them inside out. And so when I'm trying to find the shirt I want, I'm like, that technique doesn't work. Anyways, Nedra, introduce yourself to the world.
Thanks, Heather. I really appreciate you having me on today. I'm Netta Rosinas, and I do marketing strategy and coaching for service-based businesses. I love helping them discover ways that they can embed their values into their marketing and not have it be something that they dread or it's completely overwhelming.
Yeah, marketing can be extremely overwhelming, especially when there's like all the things and you're told like you should be on TikTok, you should be doing this, you should be doing that. But then the flip side is of it, you hear you should only be in, a couple of places and really get those solid and, really have a grip on what you're doing with that. And then you can explore other ones. So maybe we can just start with that question of like, should we be in a lot of places? If it's easy to post, like I use things like missing letter and later where I can post in many places, but then it ends up being the same post. And so, Nedra, help out. Should we be doing all the things or what should we be doing?
Yeah, I hear this all the time, Heather. I think the first question is, where are your customers hanging out? Where are your best clients hanging out? Because, you could try to be on all the platforms, but like you just said, it's exhausting. And, if it's just falling on deaf ears and not being received, then it's just wasting your time and energy and it just exhausts you. So I think, it's always good to step back and go, who should I talk to? Who am I serving the best? And narrowing it down a bit. And I know it's really hard. I'm actually trying to do it for myself. And, but it is worth the effort because then your marketing efforts will just bring back tenfold and it'll be so much easier to share what you're doing. So for example, a lot of my clients have a lot of success on LinkedIn. It's just one of those platforms that, a lot of professionals are on and it's easier to connect. It's a lot less noise than Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, the ones you're listing. And I think, I've been having a lot of interesting discussions about Facebook and how it's kind of imploding on itself and people are hopping off like wildfire. So I'm definitely advising my clients not to spend a lot of time there, especially because I think over the years it's become like this melding of personal and professional and it gets really confusing and people don't know what they're doing. And I'm like, just even take a social media detox, just get off of there for a while and see how it feels, like don't even sweat it. I bet you won't. I bet it'll just take your stress level down a notch.
Yeah, I mean, there's all this pressure of, yeah, like you said, Facebook is one of those weird things because now it's like, because I have a business, now I'm letting people be my friend that
Yeah.
I'm business, I know through business. And it's like, I'm not even really paying attention to like my friend, like I'm not posting anything personal anymore because it's like that thing has been meshed together. So it is difficult for people who are entrepreneurs. And I would imagine it's also difficult for people that are just working a regular job because now employers look at your social media accounts. And so it is kind of this like weird blend of what do I post, what do I not post, and all of that. So there's also that added pressure.
Yeah, and I've been having a discussion with lots of my community and clients about what can you do outside of social media? What can you do that makes you stand out and be a little different? There's this book that came out by Mike Bacallitz. I bet you're a fan of his. That it's called Get Different. It came out last fall, and it has all these different messages of how you can basically take your message and do it in a different format or different different system than the rest of your colleagues, and be able to hit your audience the right way, but maybe in a way that is not traditional, you know. For example, there's a really good story in there about a therapist who really wants to work with Latinx couples, and she is basically listing herself in these directories, doing the traditional ways of being a therapist, and it's not working. So she actually records these videos of her giving a breakdown of this telenovela, like this Latin TV show about soap opera about like how to help these couples, and it's really popular, and people really received that well and started wanting to work with her because she was doing something a little different and standing out, because therapists at that time, this was a couple of years ago, were not doing video. So I'm not saying that everyone should go out and do video. I'm just saying find a medium that works for you, that you enjoy, that you know that will your clients will receive well, and also just naturally be drawn to you.
I love that. And, you know, that's also part of this whole thing that I'm doing with stepping into your authenticity. And I do have that book, and that was kind of one of the little sparks of it was about that. And, you know, people always say like, oh, you're so authentic and that's part of your brand. And, you know, and I want to explore more in video because I was afraid of it. And so that's kind of like what has dawned this going live for 45 days, and I'm sticking with it. So far it's been going all right. But, you know, sticking with it, if you've got a plan, like you're challenging yourself is one thing. But if you're trying things that are different, how long should you explore these different things before you give up and be like, you know, this didn't work? Or is it a matter of kind of tweaking things and just, I mean, marketing is a lot of experimenting, right?
Absolutely. And that's what the book talks about. And I've actually been doing it myself just to try it out. You know, Mike recommends at least 100 touches, or 100, you know, you have to do it 100 times to see where, you know, if it's moving the dial. And that's a lot. And like your challenge you're doing with yourself, Heather, this is, you know, some 45 days is going to, you know, I don't know what day you're on, but it definitely, that's a lot of days. So you have to kind of pace yourself. And I've actually been doing my own version of it. I've been sending out handwritten cards to a select number of types of clients, and I think when I've been a number 50, and I was starting to give up, and I think now I'm starting to get traction. So it's really about being persistent, and you know, I have an Excel spreadsheet where I'm tracking every little detail and seeing what's working, what's not. But I think I'm now just starting to get traction at 50. So it's definitely like you need support, and you need like people supporting you, and what do you call it? Accountability for it, because it's hard. It is not easy.
Yeah. And okay, so that's an interesting thing. So that 50 mark, maybe 100, you got to just keep trying it. And then you got to figure out the tweak. So
Yeah.
I used to work in market research. And so, you know, I keep thinking like, oh, how do you do some market research around this and get some really good feedback? Because if you want to ask your friends, you know, maybe they're going to be too kind about it. Or if you
Yeah.
ask your family, they don't really understand what you're doing.
Right.
So they,
Right.
they might have a different. So do you recommend like going out and finding like other colleagues that you know and just be like, hey, can you just give it to me real? Or do you want to find people that are in your target? Or what are some ways that you would advise people that are maybe on the cheap that are trying to do some market research?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, one of the things I've been doing is asking for introductions, to get informational interviews with people that I'm interested in working with, and that's been great, because I get they're being really honest with me, and like, don't even bother doing that thing. You know, this is where you're gonna find more folks, or start networking in these groups, and that's like the fastest way. I mean, I was trying to get into Facebook groups to get information. I was trying all these things that was not working at all. But once you start talking to people that are in the field, right amongst the other people that you want to serve and work with, that's when you're going to get some answers. That's a really, you know, an easy ask for people to, you know, 10 to 20 minutes of their time, just ask, you know, really, and honor that. Ask the questions and know what you're asking, and then send them a thank you card. Really appreciate them, and don't ever try to upsell. You know, I think
Right.
that's one of the things I was very cautious of, is like, I'm not selling anything. I'm just gathering information and wanting to be supportive, and you know, honor the industry I'm wanting to work with.
I did some informational interviews back when I was trying to figure out my niche, and
Mhm.
so I found that when I asked certain questions, hi, we have a guest that joined. We are talking all things marketing. So right now we're talking about market research and how do you do your own market research. So Nedra was commenting, she's a marketing expert, that it helps to do informational interviews. And so I did informational interviews as well. And people are very nice with their time. It's amazing. And I found people that I didn't know. I had other people that I did know, and then they recommended other people to me. And it was interesting when you first come up with a set of questions, how you think that it's going to go one way, but the more you talk to people, you realize like, oh, I need to tweak these questions and figure this, but you want to keep them as similar as possible. So that
Yeah.
way you can actually collect some data that actually you can see some trends or things that you weren't expecting. So did you have like, I think my interviews were around 20 minutes as well. Did you have the same questions that you asked everybody, or how did you establish the questions?
Well, yeah, one of the things I realized was I started asking, well, also be aware who you're talking to. I started talking to people that were close to retirement and they were not giving me the answers. So I had to be like, whoa, okay, scratch those answers. Those weren't very helpful. I need to talk to people that are, 5 years into their business that are going to, having these challenges I'm talking about. These other people were not having the challenges. So um, I think that's really important. And then I did start tweaking the questions, and I asked a lot in the beginning. Now I only ask like 3 because I now know that's plenty to get the information I'm looking for. And then, like you said, Heather, based on those answers, there's like some questions and some kind of follow up and like, okay, what's going on here? Let's get into the weeds and like, what's some details that you can share with me that I'm not going to know unless I'm an insider.
Right. And so these informational interviews, they're really for me, it was finding out the language that maybe the ideal customer that I thought in my mind was my ideal customer,
Mm-hmm.
what types of language that they would use about the problems that they needed solved. So
Exactly.
that's kind of what I was asking them about. And then trying to also figure out like, is this the client that I need now, or is this a client that I need to build up to? Like I need to have more experience with maybe someone at a different level
Mm-hmm.
and then go up. And then also, are the services that I think that they need, do they actually want those services? So was that kind of
Mm-hmm.
what you were asking about?
Yeah, exactly. I did get some of the language, like you said, like what are the pain points, what are the challenges they're having, and then if it's something that I'm wanting to offer, is that match what their needs are and what they're willing to spend. Like also talking about money, what does that look like, and where are people going now to get help with that? Like who are the experts? Because that's one of the things I think that we forget is like we can collaborate with other people, and there are probably other people that are talking to those audiences and they could use your support, or they may not, but you don't know. You have to go out there and ask them, and it's definitely scary and uncomfortable, but that's how change happens, and that's how you can grow and get into different audiences, and that it's a lot faster than individual one by one going through social media DMs or emailing people. It's a lot faster.
And what about just gathering information for like maybe if you're going to have like a new offer in your business? So
Mm-hmm.
I'm in that situation where I've got some group programs that I'm going to be rolling out, and I want to make sure that I'm one including the things that people really care about, and also I want to understand like what is the transformation that they are looking for, and so that I can not only tweak the program to accommodate for that, but
Mm-hmm.
also use the language that they would be using around that. So can from a marketer's perspective, when you're gathering this information, are you looking for like phrases that you can use in your marketing, or are you looking for, I mean, at this point, if informational interviews is not going to give you testimonials, but it may give you like the questions that they're asking. Is that and
Yeah.
so is that kind of what you're gathering, and how do you utilize that?
Right. Yeah. So I definitely have captured some of those, and those are really valuable because when you're, anytime you're doing, like you're introducing a program or sending out a bunch of emails or, just putting it out there, it's kind of like that story brand model where, what's the villain? I don't know if you guys are familiar with that, but, I bet you are, Heather, where you have like, you want to have your client be the hero, you're the guide, and you're helping them solve a problem and avoid failure. And usually there's a villain, right? It's like
Mm-hmm.
the classic like Star Wars epic where you have, Luke Skywalker's the hero, Obi-Wan Kenobi's the guide, and Darth Vader's the villain. But that is exactly what you're doing with your clients. And so having those things addressed right away, what's keeping them up at night? What are they trying to avoid? What are they trying to solve? That's the kind of things you're asking those informational interviews. And I bet you, Heather, and I found this too, there's a lot, they started repeating themselves, and it's like, okay, these are got it. These are the ones that are going to be meaningful versus the outliers or the ones on the, far right or far left where it's like, oh, that's more extreme than I can help.
Yeah. So, okay. So then once you gather that data, that's something that you can use in your marketing. So besides the informational interviews, what are some other ways that you gather information from would-be clients, potential clients, just to kind of test out marketing? Because like we said,
Mm-hmm.
marketing can be kind of experimental at times. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
there are certain things that we know that's going to work, but do you have any other ideas of ways that we could just try things out?
Yeah, well, sometimes I mean, when I first started out, I just kind of threw spaghetti on the wall and like you said, you had a few offers or a few programs, throw them out there as beta or throw them out there as like experience, be honest and say, I'm new at this. I'm going to give you a discount, or I'm not going to, I'm going to have this at a low price right now. Would you like to be part of this and then in return, because it's at a low price, give me feedback or give me, let me know how this is going. And that can be a great way to try things out, because you don't know. You should, like one of my colleagues said a while ago, like, don't go to the back cave and assume you know what everybody wants and then come out and have this great program. It's better to try it out and test it out. And even if you have some people that do it for free and get some testimonials, but always have something in return. I think it depends on where you're at in your business and your experience and your level. But I think needs to be some kind of exchange, or there's just not, the value isn't there. So I think it depends, how big the program is. I did these marketing sprints, which are now becoming really popular, but I was doing them as a one-off, like a 1 hour to experiment with people to see how they liked them. And I offered them at a low price, and I was able to get a few of my people in my community to try them out. And I was like, oh, okay, great. These are working out nicely. You like how I'm giving these worksheets? You like this? And just got a lot of feedback and reassuring pieces that would allow me to build it up and actually start selling it.
So a marketing sprint. So is that almost like a mini VIP day, or what is a marketing sprint? Can you explain that?
Right. So marketing sprints usually come in a package of 3. They can be a hyper-focused piece on something that you want to work on. And a lot of times I've been helping people with one little project, or like maybe email marketing, or get really clear on what their challenges are. And usually I have like some resources and worksheets they can take with them as well. But that there's like a jam-packed full hour of like, let's get into this and see where your trouble points are and help solve how to work around the challenges you're having.
Oh, wow. So it's only 1 hour. So it really is a sprint.
Yeah, so there's like a package of 3, so there's 3 separate hours. So it can be an ongoing project, or it can be something like we can just focus on particular marketing activities. And I know they've been really effective and helpful for a lot of people. And there's usually like a point where they're like, aha, they have these huge aha moments because they're talking through it and going, oh, I can do it. I don't have to work as hard. Usually that's what happens. Like I can reuse my content, or I can do it differently. And then I save them hours and thousands of dollars of effort that they could have been putting towards an agency or doing something else that wasn't going to bring them the return they wanted.
Yeah. So, okay. So you just mentioned about repurposing, and earlier we were talking about how, you've got all these different social media places that you could put your stuff. And I mean, there's YouTube, and I mean, there's so many, like,
Yeah.
you can go on Clubhouse. Now you can record your Clubhouse meeting and then put it up as a podcast. I mean, there's just so many ways to repurpose things. And it seems like, with technology, it just becomes easier and easier.
Yeah.
But I mean, as far as repurposing, besides just like, I mean, you could just, make a podcast, a video. And I mean, there's ways to do it, but should you kind of repackage it in a new way? So it's like maybe just little bits and pieces, or can you really take the whole thing and just slap it into another piece of technology? Like, should you tweak it a little bit, or what are your thoughts on that?
I've seen it done all kinds of ways, Heather. I don't know if there's any hard and fast rules. So Gary Vaynerchuk there's like a whole guide he has out there where you can take something and repurpose it and just add a new image or adding a new title. There's all these different tweaks that you can do. So I think it depends on what you're trying to, have happen. Like I've actually taken trainings I've done and then add a transcript, had it, put the video and had it transcribed into like something you can read, and that is like a bonus for the actual product. So that can be, it depends on, or you can take snippets of that. I've taken those videos and had a videographer take snippets and then have them as promotional videos. There's so many ways. I think it depends on what you're trying to accomplish, and again, what platforms you're on, or what activities you're doing that are going to even land well, because you could do that and assume that your audiences are on these things and maybe they're not, and then you just waste all this time and money, and you're kind of back to square one.
Yeah, and so, repurposing, it sounds great. It's like you've made this piece of content.
Mm-hmm.
Now you want to repurpose it. But really the reality is repurposing something can take time and money and another piece of technology, or, whatever, if you're trying to cut things up, or
Mm-hmm.
and then build new artwork and do all that. It's like there's a lot of effort. So before you start repurposing one piece, do you have any ideas of, like, is it worthy of being repurposed? Like, do you have to have something that had a lot of traction to begin with? And then if it does, are people going to be like, I saw that already? Like,
Well, the thing is, Heather, I've had some good mistakes in my business where I reshared things twice in one day or one week, and and nobody said a word. So it was like fortuitous that happened. So I know that there's so much going on that you can reshare something a lot, and you're probably it's going to be to your benefit. It's not going to hurt you. So. In fact, like I just started doing my email newsletter once a week in the fall, and that was so scary. And actually, it's driven me more customers, and people are signing up more, and they're enjoying it. And it's a better cadence than what it was like every 2 weeks or something. It was just too random. So I think, but you got to be careful where you turn up the volume, because it's going to be very uncomfortable for you at first, and you want to make sure it's the right audiences too. So I think you have to see how things land. Like you said, like watch your stats, watch the engagement. That will let you know if it's something that's popular. Like, I've been doing this series of talks about how to market without social media. And I know, like, just watching the engagement of just the posts and the talks and everything about that, it's a very popular subject right now. But there's other things I've done where actually talking about repurposing your content, that's something that's so talked about everywhere else, that's not gotten me much engagement at all.
wow, that's interesting. Okay, so let's talk about this other thing then.
Mm-hmm.
So, not using social media, that's kind of a scary thing, because we're so told, like, you need to be on Instagram, you need to be on Clubhouse, all these things.
Yeah.
So what are we talking about? Are we talking about getting referrals then?
Exactly. I did this workshop a few weeks ago and had all these different ideas I threw out there, and it's a combination of things. And again, it's playing to your strengths and knowing who your community is and who your best clients are. And so one of the things we talked about was actually just going out and networking, like actually, either in person or online or both. And, like, just being visible like that can be really huge, and that can lead to more referrals, and that, like, it kind of feeds into itself. And then one of the other things we talked about was just, depending on what kind of business you have, sometimes even like a handwritten card or a homemade flyer can, be impactful. Like I had a great colleague who owned a acupuncture / massage shop here in Portland. And when things were slow, she would make these flyers and just hit the neighborhood and get more, people come in and get a massage, because they were just like, oh yeah, there's a massage place in my neighborhood, I forgot. So it's sometimes just making it simple and keeping it straight and narrow that can actually get you easier clients, like low hanging fruit. You don't have to work so hard.
Yeah, exactly. And for me, I track everywhere people find me from. So I have a spreadsheet, and, I always ask people when they do like a discovery meeting with me, like, where did they find me? And a lot of it, can come back down to like a Zoom meeting that I met them in, like
Yep.
a networking meeting.
Yep.
And I think
Exactly.
it has to do with when you actually interact with somebody and they see you and they hear you, and you're actually communicating with each other. It's not just like a cute little video or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely more impactful. And so I'm always, trying to get people to do networking, and a lot of people are scared about networking. And my feeling is that when you're networking, other people are there to network too. So it's not weird to go up to somebody and start talking. What do you think?
Exactly. And I have actually most of my clients are very introverted, so that is very uncomfortable for them. But, however, I'd like to point out that maybe maybe online is a little easier than in person, and it can be more effective. And you got to figure out, you just have to show up and see how things are done, because I found that I've been part of some really interesting online networking groups, especially since the pandemic, that have been very, great way to meet people, easier than in person. So I think it plays on to your strengths again, and what your tendencies are. And you know, I definitely don't ever want to force people to do something that's super uncomfortable, but let's find a way we can maybe get you, you know, it's like getting used to hot water. Let's get you in the warm part of the pool, and then you can get more comfortable in the hot water part, or, you know, like kind of ease yourself into it. Let's not just try to jump in and try to get like, oh, I can deal with hot water. Oh, this is fine. And then you're like really mad and uncomfortable the whole time. That's not how us humans work. We're not very well equipped to do that.
Well, and online networking is an interesting thing because like I was just using a purse the other day that I hadn't used in a long time. And there was a zip pocket, and I go into the zip pocket and I found a bunch of business cards that were
Yeah.
from a networking event that I went to, that obviously I never contacted those people after the networking meeting. But and I do usually advise people to, like, when you do meet somebody at a live thing, like, write something on the business card that reminds you of who this person is, and then
Yeah.
send them something right away or whatever. So
Yeah.
obviously I didn't listen to my own advice on that one,
Right.
because there was no information. But anyways, I digress. So, but when you do Zoom networking, what's really cool is you can go into a private chat with them, get
Mm-hmm.
their contact information, and then just copy and paste it. Like, just start following them on Instagram. I mean, it seems like it's like
Mm-hmm.
you kind of hit the ground running right away. You can go find them on LinkedIn, like, while you're still in the meeting and all of that. And
Oh
they're
yeah.
they're like, oh yeah, her. I'm meeting her. Yeah, I'll connect with her. What do you think?
Right. That's exactly what I do. And you know, the thing with online networking or even in person, you're not going to hit it off with everyone. You go in there. It's always good to have a strategy. That's one of the things I've read in multiple books I have. Like the one Never Eat Alone. I don't know if you've read that one. That's a good one, where always have a strategy if you go to any kind of conference or anything where you're, you know, what are you trying to achieve? Are you trying to meet three great people? Like, I think it's really good to have something simple that is attainable. That's not like, I'm going to get his client, you know, like you know, that's high level. Let's notch it down a few levels and go, okay, how about I try to find one great possible referral partner, or somebody who can introduce me to this person, or, you know, like, I think people to have, and I'm guilty of it, have unrealistic expectations when it comes to those types of things, and have to just, you know, realize too, these online, in person, any kind of networking event, you got to show up again and again so people trust you. You can't just show up once and be like, it's going to be awesome, because people, you know, I think it takes at least 5 to 12 times before, you know, them seeing you and building trust before they're going to take action or do anything with you.
Yeah, and turn your camera on. Like, don't just have like your name
Oh,
picture.
yes.
You know,
Yeah.
people want to see you, look into your eyes, and that's so important. So besides on online networking, which is, I
Hmm.
mean, that just like opens up possibilities of having clients everywhere.
Yeah.
And but there is something to be said about local
Hmm.
clients and networking locally. If we can do that, if it's possible.
Sure.
And a lot of people want to support local businesses, so there is that. Do you have any advice, like during COVID, like how we can do things more locally? It's kind of a rough time for that.
It is. And I'm finding that there's things I want to attend that they're just not really doing anything right now. It's tough. So I think it just depends what part of the country you're in. I had one client who is a stylist, and she's down in San Diego, and she was having a hard time being on Instagram because, God, you know, that's really where so many of her colleagues are, and she thought that, you know, and she was told that's where she's going to get clients. Well, she was hitting pretty big burnout, which a lot of us are anyway. And you know, we talked about, she's more of an extrovert, so she, you know, like, do you actually like enjoying, you know, being with people? And she said, usually if I can be with someone and be in the same space and I get to meet them, I can connect, and then naturally they become a client. Like, it's just, you know, I've seen that happen before the pandemic. I'm like, okay. So luckily last spring she was able to join a lot of these women leadership groups that were meeting. I think they're doing hybrids. I think they were doing
Hmm.
online and off, and or in person, and that helped her start establishing some, like, you know, ways to connect, and gave her some confidence. And so she started, you know, meeting with people, and it took off. Like, of course she was right. Like, once she started meeting people in person, she connected, and they really wanted to work with her. So I think don't give up. Like, I think there's, even if it's just like going back to, like, maybe meeting someone who's a center of influence, you know, like, I don't know, we talked about this, but this is something that there's a lot of people that are very connected. If you can even just have, like, um, even a Zoom or a very short in-person meeting with them, honor their time and be very like direct about what you want and be realistic and like, can you give me an introduction or, try to see how you can help them and come with that approach. That can be really helpful too. So I think I think what's happening is we're all being forced to be very creative, and it's not always easy. And I'm definitely frustrated, but I know we're all frustrated. We're all trying to do the best we can, try to keep each other safe.
Yeah. And, when you're networking, just be there to make connections. Like you said, don't have this, like, have a strategy. Like I'm going to meet 5 people. I'm going to get business cards from 4 people, or I want to make, but that whole thing of like, I'm going to get a client then you come across desperate and salesy.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're there to really make connections, you can make connections with people that may not be in your target market, but they may know somebody else. So it's always
Exactly.
great to be open-minded and just make real solid connections with people. And well, that's very cool. Well, Nedra, thank you so much for being on the live today. So this was, I'm going live for 45 days in a row, and this is day 23. Oh my God.
Wow.
And it's Sunday, February 27th. So Nedra, how can people work with you? Where can they find you?
Yeah, I'm here on Instagram, just nresinas consulting, and nedrazinas.com. It's easy to find me on my website. Yeah, I'm in a lot of spots, so yeah, definitely easy, very accessible.
And how can they work with you? What are some of the ways that they can work with you?
Yeah, we mentioned the marketing sprints. That's a really popular way. I also have a very exciting VIP intensive day where I help. Basically, the end result is, and it's not a lot of time on your part. It's a lot of people are like, "Oh, I have to spend the whole day with you." I'm like, no, 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 no. It's mostly we meet in the morning, and it's like a 90-minute session, usually on Zoom or the phone, to kind of get really inside the business and what's going on, and of course with the marketing. But there's all these other parts of it too, like how are you getting clients, what are their pain points, like really addressing those. And then the best thing is the end result is you get this amazing document that is your 90-day marketing custom roadmap. And so it lays out all the different things we talked about, and it's just a questionnaire where I ask a lot of questions and get details, and then talk about your clients' pain points, the benefits, and then we talk about different marketing activities. Usually there are a lot of them not social media related. and then there's an actual 90-day where month 1 do this, month 2 do this. It breaks it down so you can know the order and not have to think so hard about what to do, and it builds upon itself. Usually I have you do a few things the first month, and then based on those results we do things the second month, and it's just realistic. And then and then what's nice about that VIP day, we do a 14-day follow-up to see how you're doing. And a lot of times people are like, "Oh, I haven't really taken action," and I'm like, "I bet you have. Let's go through and see what you've done." And then by the end of the call they're like, "Oh yeah, I am doing things. This is great. Thanks so much, Edra." And I'm like, "Yeah, that's why we're working together." And it's so nice. People have been doing this VIP days with me, and I'm starting to see some huge results. People are signing, people right and left. They're closing big deals down. They're really starting to gain traction and reach their clients or get new customers. It's very effective. So I'm really happy that I'm doing them.
Wow, that's very cool. So this roadmap is that sounds like a lot to get done in 90 minutes. So how does that work? Do they have to send you information beforehand, or is it all you just do it all in 90 minutes?
No, so the way it works is I have a questionnaire beforehand, and I start working on the document before we meet, and then that day we talk through things, and then the rest of the day I work on that roadmap, and then by the end of the day, usually around 3 or 4, we meet and I review it with them, and then it's theirs to keep, and that's when they need to start taking action and doing what they said they're going to do and follow through. So yeah, it's just a very intensive day for me to give to you. It's all about, you basically have my whole brain devoted to you, which is pretty awesome.
Oh, wow. Okay. And then the 14-day afterwards, that's kind of that accountability session so that
Yep.
they know that, okay, I better get some work done.
Exactly.
Very cool.
Yeah, I've done at least 9 or 10 of them, and they've been very effective, and people have been accomplishing a lot.
Wow, that's so cool. Awesome. Well, thank you, Nedra, for being on the, I almost said podcast. It's not a podcast. This is the live. We're going live. So,
Yeah.
and folks out there, if you want to come to I have a meetup tomorrow. It's called the monthly Monday Money Mayhem Makeover. I think that's what it's called. And if you go to GetTheBalance Right podcast.com /M5, you can attend or at least sign up for one in the future. They happen every month on the fourth Monday at 4 p.m. Pacific. So hopefully you'll attend. It's a great way to meet people. And thank you so much, Nedra, for being on the live today.
Thanks, Heather. This was fun. I really enjoyed talking to you.
All right. Have a great Sunday.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.